turn one.
Cam van Gisbergen, who tries to force car 97 down the inside of 17, he's been turned.
Caution, exit of the hairpin.
There's contact there with Jack LeBrock. He's also gone into the fence on the right-hand side.
Whoa! Nearly hit Jack LeBrock head on. We're still good.
Maximum points. Jamie Whincup strikes back in Tasmania.
Yeah! That's win! Woo! Thank you guys, that was awesome. You get a win. It's our first win. Great team effort, guys. 1-2. Thank you.
Last time round for the Borough Pairs Tasmania Super Sprint of 2021. Race number 3 of the weekend, and a scorcher of a start for Mostert. Drops the clutch beautifully and leaps away from Cam Waters.
Hey, if the landing's fast enough of it, I'll get through and have a crack. And if I don't make any ground, I'll give it back. Yeah, SVG can have a crack if you want, as long as you get it back. Yeah, mate, correct, that's the deal. Let SVG have a crack and I'll give it back to you.
They felt that at Red Bull that Shane had a bit more firepower. If that's happening and he can get into this gang, he'll try and spoil the party.
I wouldn't want to be Will Davison now because he's right in the firing line from Van Gisbergen.
Alan, keep pushing. Alan, keep pushing. I don't have much more. I think it's going to get jammed up here. Last lap. Should pay it back now. Give the spot back to Jamie, please. Give the spot back to Jamie.
But out of the final corner, Chaz Mostert finally breaks through for the first time since 2019 and wins for Mobil 1 and Appliances Online.
Yeah, boy. Well done. Request to do a burnout, mate. Request to do a burnout. Yeah, mate. All good, but get me some pickup on the way back.
It was a popular victory, wasn't it, for Chaz Mostert down there at Tasmania at our previous round, the Repco Supercars Championship. Umrall qualifying set and ready for race number 2 of the weekend. Later on this morning, Anton De Pasquale scoring back-to-back pole positions for Shell V-Power Racing. We welcome you back to the OTR Super Sprint and race number 2 of the Fanatec GT World Challenge Australia, powered by AWS. Much better conditions for racing out there today. And thankfully, Chad Nailon, good morning to you. Everybody on the slick tyre, unlike yesterday.
Well, we assume. The way that these teams were making their decisions about which tyres to put on, I wouldn't be surprised if a few of them have thrown a set of wets on today. It was quite funny, wasn't it? The rumours up and down pit lane. And I think what a lot of that comes back to, Matt, is the fact that there are a lot of AM-class or amateur gentleman drivers out there that didn't want to be on a semi-wet circuit on a slick tyre, which is completely understandable. But in order to go out there and win that race yesterday, you needed to start on slicks. And Garth Walden and the team down at GWR certainly made the right call when it came what to do with that Nissan GTR with Brett Hobson at the wheel. There it goes. Giant, isn't compared to all the other GT3s out there with the famous Skyline rear taillights. And as a result, they just brained them.
Yeah.
Nearly a minute clear of the field. 51 seconds in a 1-hour race.
And that was with a safety car as well. At one point, he had a 20-second lead before the first safety car come out. And in the end, over 50 seconds, and there he is doing solo driver duties today. He'll start from near back of the field. It's a different qualifying order. So we look at some of the best vantage points around this.
You'd be able to see your house from up there, Matt.
Pretty much, yeah. What a magnificent day to go racing here today. It was really cold this morning, which always promises a nice day here. The clouds have gone away. We had a big dose of rain, which this area really, really needs, but we can have that Monday to Friday. That'll be much more appreciated and give us, and the fans that are here, who've turned out their droves. It's been a real festival atmosphere here this weekend and capped off with a big fireworks display last night, but expecting some more fireworks here in race number 2 of this 1-hour race, which incidentally the time has already started. If you didn't catch our coverage yesterday, there's a compulsory pit stop which needs to be performed between the 25th and 35th minute. We'll run through the minimum pit stop times as it evolves. But if you did catch the coverage yesterday and wondering why it's a different looking grid, we had 2 qualifying sessions on Friday to sort this one out, and the pro drivers, driver A will start the race here today.
So that is Brock Feeney in that gorgeous chrome Mercedes AMG. And he'll be starting off the pole today, picking up his maiden pole in the championship on Friday. That was a really impressive job, and managed to get that nod ahead of the Audi R8 next to him of Dylan O'Keefe, who's got a fair bit of GT3 and sports car experience already. So that was a nice job. Garth Tander's out there in the second of the Audis. Brenton Grove in the Porsche. Paul Stokel as well in that front pack. So some pretty experienced guys chasing down the teenager, Brock Feeney, who's going to be starting a pole, and then handing that car over to Prince Jeffrey Ibrahim, who started that car yesterday. It's 888 Engineering prepared car, and they'll be keen to make amends for the pit stop that hampered their efforts yesterday. A much simpler race strategy today as we get set to go racing for race 2.
Safety car will pull to the left-hand side. And race 2, round 3 of this year's Fanatec GT World Challenge Australia, powered by AWS, is ready for blast-off on this very long main straight at the Bend Motorsport Park. They pull out for the start, the second row. In fact, want to make it 4 wide to give you an idea on how wide this main straight is at the Bend Motorsport Park. You watch Garth Tander coming down the inside already, but on the outside is the Grove Porsche. So the second row will take the lead going into turn number 1.
Hacker was that row too, just swallowing up the guys on that front row, and Brock Feeney got absolutely jumped. So he's gone all the way back down to 3rd. Good stuff from Brenton Grove. I was too busy looking at Garth down the inside thinking that the experience of Garth Tander is going to pay off, and it was Grove who went sailing around the outside to take the race lead.
So now to turn number 6 we go on lap number 1. We talked about the pit stop times. It's a matter of getting yourself the biggest margin possible right now. And
that was O'Keefe wide.
Remember, he's filling in for Chaz Mostert this weekend with Tony Bates in the Bostik Audi, set up by the Melbourne Performance Centre team as they come out through this sweeping downhill right-hander.
Just sitting there going, Audi, Merc, Aston Martin, Nissan.
You weren't going ka-ching, ka-ching each time we went through there?
Lamborghini. That's what we love about this championship, watching these brilliant cars roll on through so many different makes and marks and engine types.
So Hobson's already made up 4 positions. He's up to 14th place right now. Winner of the GT3 class and outright honours yesterday. It's Brenton Grove that leads us around the back section of the Bend Motorsport Park for the first time. And got some good company right behind him here. Great start from that second row. And Brock Feeney joining Jeffrey Ibrahim, giving him his 3rd different teammate in as many rounds.
Which is pretty cool, because he's going to learn so many different traits from all the different drivers that he's competing with. Talking about car 888 right now, and the man who's going to be getting in shortly. He was watching on Supercars qualifying from inside the garage, just lapping it up. He's been connected to that team for a few years now, running Asian GT Championships. Brock Feeney is almost the new kid there, isn't he, at 888? Driving for them in Super 2, had 1 round at Bathurst. Fantastic young go-karter. Had a win here in the Toyota 86s, so pretty quick around here already.
I think that was his first victory in the series.
He was 15 years of age at the time, which is pretty impressive, to say the least. So exciting start. Watch the guys in the second row. Just timed it perfectly. Lit it up. 4 wide.
It's an incredible shot as the car's fanned out into turn number 1 here. It's a 560-metre run from the control line there into turn 1. That was Michael Bailey just pulling up his Aston Martin there in the middle of the field.
I feel like
beside the track.
That shot looking down the front straight is going to be a poster somewhere one day here for the Bend, with Yasser Shaheen running in this race. He's sharing with Garth Tander. The Bend car on the inside down towards turn 1 as well.
The addition of that pedestrian overpass as well there too. The constant upgrades that continue here at the Bend Motorsport Park here in South Australia. So the first 3 have about 2 seconds already. Now, our lead car, Chad, the Grove combination, don't have an additional times their 97-second mandatory pit stop time today. But for the 24 and the 777, they've got 107 and 112 seconds on the pit stop time. So Grove's in a good spot here. Tander and Feeney will need to get ahead here to maximise that time when we get to the pit stop window at the 25th minute mark.
The other thing to think about here is Yasser Shaheen, you know, all due respect to Stephen Grove, who's a very good sports car racer. Yasser is very quick.
Yes.
So they'll want a little bit of a buffer of a Yasser Shaheen when he gets into that car late in the race, because he knows this place fairly well, as you'd imagine.
I mean, more than anybody else in this field. Through to complete another lap here. Track continues to get better. We've had a couple of our support categories out earlier today, and they're really sweeping the track for us because an incredible amount of rain did fall here yesterday, but once you get off that racing line, it is still really slippery here. So we look back down the inside here at turn number 1. We always cringe, don't we? Because there's so much money on the line. You don't dare want to make these kind of mistakes. We've seen a lot of damage already in the first 2 rounds of the series, particularly at Phillip Island, where we rode off 1 Ferrari. That's more than enough, I think.
Yep. Yeah, they're such beautiful cars, but they are fragile. They're definitely expensive. I mean, that's always a relative term. AMG goes full send up at turn 6 and nailed it too. I thought that was going to go wide, but absolutely picked his braking marker beautifully to the inside of Arthur Abrahams. We're still seeing Arthur run again back in the series. It's been a while.
He just loves his motor racing, doesn't he?
Yep.
Now they're doing solo driver duties. Made contact with the wall at Bathurst in the second race back on the Easter long weekend. More known for his open wheel exploits back in the 80s and 90s as a former Australian F2 champion back in the mid-80s. And the World Sports Car Championship on a couple of occasions as well, but really just enjoying his time in the Fanatec GT World Challenge Australia. As Grove, Tander and Feeney lead us down to the final set of turns here early in this race.
Brenton Grove doing a really good job at the moment. He's got a ton of experience behind him in Garth Tander. He's got one of the hottest properties in young driving. Oh, this would be us, Matt. Look at this. Get us down on this at the moment. The kid's having a steer.
Straight after this, you and I.
Laps.
We need to square off on a few races.
It's almost virtual reality in a way. A little camera in the toy car.
In fact, that's how you sit on the steering wheel most of the time.
Get up on the wheel, don't I? That's not bad. Oh,
no, that's how you drive as well.
There's contact. It's 88 and 97. Wing Cup and SVG are together.
Maybe this is where they need to square off, and there's on-track inserts. We take it down here.
It's just Craig Baird and all the drivers just going, all right, guys, have it out.
Just sort it out.
Cool to see the kids here having fun. It's got a real carnival festival atmosphere, like you mentioned earlier. The promoters, local promoter, have done a great job trying to bring the party back. We've got crowds back at a motor racing venue. Full crowd at the footy last night in South Australia. Slowly but surely, hopefully, life is returning to normal. Sporting events will be packed in the future. G'day, Charlie.
Who have I got with me right now? The man himself, Stephen Grove. How good was Brenton's start just then?
Wow, it was great. He started from 4th and ended up getting obviously first, so he's got a little gap there. So if he can keep working on that, bringing in that position for me would be good. I hope he can do that.
Now, Andre just did incredibly yesterday. You must be so proud as a team, and then he's done quite well in qualifying.
Yeah, listen, he's a great young kid. He's a super talent, and now he's got that first win. He's got the monkey off his back now, and now he can build his confidence and push on. So it's really exciting for him, and it's really exciting for the team.
Well, time to take your team owner hat off and put your helmet on. You'll be out there soon.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Doing a great job so far, but this is what happened. I don't think Steve wants to look at the screen right now. Maybe this one, because
this was
the better shot.
It was going nicely at this point of the lap, and then he had a fair moment when Dad was getting interviewed. Maybe saw Dad on the big screen and freaked out for a second. Then
what's he saying about me?
Yeah.
It's around through turns 7, 8, and 9 where they plunge downhill.
Yeah, look at the front splitter mat just scraping on the ground. Look how low these cars sit. There's the great shot of the rear diffuser, which they had to fix up overnight to get this car back on track. So Feeney closing on the back of Garth Tander. A couple of 888 connections here about to square off. Garth and Brock will be on the grid for the great race in 888 cars. Teammates, if you will. Not right now, they're not. Because Garth is over at Melbourne Performance Centre, driving the factory Audi team here. And leading the championship, I might add.
And for Brock right now, he can just stay with these guys ahead, particularly the 777 Audi just ahead, because 10-second less a stop for this car. When the pit stop window opens, they'll be hoping for a much better, much calmer race number 2 than what they had yesterday. Beautiful shot looking across the track there. So Grove hasn't got away here. Tander starting to turn up the wicket. Here's Ben Motorsport Park back. Audi. 1:49.5 is the fastest lap of the race, but it's early stages.
This is where Brenton had that moment earlier, just slipping up on the AstroTurf at the exit of the curb, going through 13. This is the double left-hander at 15, where Scott McLaughlin famously pulled the handbrake on in the safety car, going for a lap with Greg Murphy. on live TV, no less.
Murph will never forget that one.
Won't. Get him back one day, though.
This guy's already, Chad, just out to 4 seconds to Paul Stokel, who's teamed up with Gary Higgin. They got a pit lane penalty added to their time yesterday for not complying with the blue flags. Remember, they were in a late race battle with our leader in the end. They unlapped himself, and Carl Reindler said to me yesterday, we're okay with that as long as you can pull away again. The problem was, several corners later, he got repassed, then tried to retake him. So race control frowned upon that, and a drive-through penalty of 32 seconds was added to the KFC Audi.
There were some sizable penalties getting handed around yesterday. Was it Nick Kelly got drive-through plus 100 seconds?
So he got the penalty for not completing that pit stop window in the window. It was, I think it was 5 seconds or something they missed it by. So that added on to the top of the pit lane penalty. Yeah. So they really...
That's almost getting up there into Greg Murphy 5-minute penalty.
Yeah. Park it up,
and get out and have a loo break.
Brett Hobson's come into the pits, so our race winner from yesterday has come into the pits. Now, this is not inside the window, so what's happened to the Garth Walden prepared Nissan? He was up to 14th place before that happened.
Not the day they were having yesterday, that's for sure. It looks like a gear selection issue.
So you can't get gears by the sound of it. Gremlins.
If I know anything about technology, hitting it really hard helps.
So yelling and using colourful words sometimes does it too. Oh, what a shame. And how different, how cruel this sport can be.
Oh, I think they're going to go the off and on again trick here. Let's see if this works.
Control-Alt-Delete.
Yep. Going to fire it back up.
The team will continue to rotate those tyres too to get away the heat soak as we check in with the iMac Lamborghini. Ben Porter behind the wheel. They had a great day out yesterday.
There's a lot of grass in the vents on the side of this car and still dropping grass. I got the feeling this has been off the track.
Oh, and that's the high-speed part of the circuit.
Oh, yeah, that's going to pick up quite a bit.
That's where David Reynolds picked up some grass yesterday, but he picked up a big chunk of it.
And then he's also got the problem of trying to get this thing back on the track with cars sight unseen. He's going to give them as much room as he can. That was quite clever from Ben. Kept that over on the driver's left as hard as he could. But the problem they're going to have is surely the water temp in that Lamborghini is going to be creeping up because the radiator just won't be able to get the airflow it needs. All that grass jammed in there. He goes back to the inside and continues racing. So he's quite a bit in there.
So they won the AM class race yesterday here, teaming up with Andrew McPherson, which he's done for several events now. This team went across and raced over in Asia back in 2019 in the Blackburn GT Series. They picked up some wins at Sepang and Fuji in the Korea International Circuit, just to name a couple of those famous tracks over there.
Lovely.
Ben himself comes from a Formula V background, so completely different worlds to this iMac Lamborghini.
I think he once held the lap record for an Amarok around Bathurst at one point.
Is that something you brag about, or? Hey, a lap record at Bathurst is a lap record. Doesn't matter what it is. We'd push a shopping trolley around if we get a lap record.
I like to think I had the AMG GT4 lap record at Bathurst because I was the only driver to have ever driven one around there.
Well, you can say for being the most scared.
Yeah, that too. No, Peter Hackett was the most scared because he was in the passenger seat. But that was the one and only time that car got driven there at the beginning. No GT4s in this race. We have had an AMG GT4 compete with Mark Griffith at a couple of the events so far this year.
Just the sole car. We didn't see him here this weekend, though. So Grove out to half a second to Tander, who's got a second back to Feeney. Paul Stokel still runs inside the top 5. Like I said, teaming up with Gary Higgin, who will take over driver duties sometime from the 35th minute remaining on our screen. At the moment, 42 minutes and 50 seconds remaining. More happening on the replays here. This is Tony Quinn, the local Legends entry. And Michael Bailey doing some grass cutting. Still to be careful because there's a lot of moisture still in that grass on the outside of the course from the rain we had yesterday.
Let me gather that back up and get it back out on track. So the leaders, Grove, Tander, Feeney, no change. That gap staying reasonably steady. Garth able to claw it back occasionally. Dylan O'Keefe's finding some speed. He's just set the quickest first sector of the race back and forth, but that gap has ballooned out considerably. So he's With about 4 seconds to make up to this pack.
Now, in these situations, with your wise strategic head that you have, would these guys wait to the end now of the pit stop window, or would you come in straight away? Hobson taking your helmet off, incidentally.
If I had the pro in, I'd go to the very last dying second of that pit stop window.
Tend to agree, yep. Whereas yesterday was a different story. They wanted to get in as soon as that pit stop window opened. That's tough.
If the pit stop window is 10 minutes and it's almost a 2-minute lap time, you can get 5 extra laps with your pro in there. And if your pro driver is 2 seconds quicker than your av driver, that's 10 seconds advantage in the motor race. So it's hugely important to keep them in there as long as possible.
Charlie?
Brett, after a win yesterday in a trophy car, that's what dreams are made of. What has just gone wrong now?
We think the air compressor in the back for the gear shifter has failed. So about a lap there, we had no gears and it just only chugged in here. So, but these things happen. It's racing, I guess. We'll be back next time, bigger and stronger again.
You are highs and lows of motorsport this weekend. All the best.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. Cheers.
Yeah, how can change in 24 hours thanks to Charlie Robinson down in pit lane. Brett's actually embarking on his first full season in motorsport in the country since 2008, where he contested the Super 2 series. He's made some one-off starts in the 12-hour and the like, but hasn't done a full season for the better part of 13 years. And teaming up with Garth Walden Racing, don't worry, they'll be back bigger and stronger. They've got some endurance races to come up later in the year in the Fanatec GT World Challenge. In fact, another round here later in the year, which will go over 3 hours.
And then Bathurst is the other long race they've got coming up. Not a 12-hour, a 3-hour. Still a lot of laps around Bathurst, 3 hours. Should get you about 500 Ks, roughly.
Michael Bailey, car 38, running behind Rosser and Tony Gwynn. These guys just out in the top 10 and 11, 12th and 13th position. Just over 40 minutes remain, about 5 minutes away from the pit stop window opening here in race number 2 of the Fanatec GT World Challenge. As we build up for a big day here at the OTR Super Sprint. 2 supercar races to follow. The Haltech V8 Super Utes final race coming up today at Porsche Carrera Cup after that bruising opening race yesterday. Well, they got for us today in much drier conditions. It's now O'Keefe starts to put the target. Oh, that was a last-minute move by Grove at the final turn on the lap cars.
That was decisive, wasn't it, from Brenton Grove. Had he backed off, he would have been vulnerable down the front straight to Garth Tander, so I had to make that one count. We're now well and truly into lap traffic, and that's the difference in speed between the pro drivers and the AM class drivers. It took just 9 laps on a 5K circuit to find traffic. So I had the headlights flashing, slight indecision, and then I got to go for it. And Tesserero doing his best to try and keep the door open. Garth is closing.
He knows it's go time now.
Set the fastest first sector last time round, was a 10th of a second quicker over the entire lap, but 49.6, 49.5, and again Garth is quicker the first sector. Although Brenton Grove fights back his personal best first sector. Same for Brock Feeney, so the speed at the front of the field has increased. And this is going to go on for another 15 minutes, this battle.
And this car looks much better than what Garth remarked it yesterday. He was here in a test session a couple of weeks back in the lead up to this round. And he quoted about 2 seconds difference between what it was here on the test day to what it was in practice and qualifying here on Friday. We hand over to Yasser Shahin. They've picked up 4 wins, outright wins, during the course of this season alone.
Now, we say that the best strategy is to leave the pro drivers in until the end of the window. Now, if you're thinking purely from a sporting point of view, that might be right. But remember, they're sharing with AM-class drivers who typically pay the bills, and they might want to have the majority of the races themselves because they're paying for it. So, and well might they make that decision. So that there's that battle of, do we do the strategy that is best to potentially win the race? It's one of the Audis, and that's Greg Taylor running wide and getting back on the track. Seems to be a host of these R8s out there today.
It's in the same spot.
It's always the same spot. Or do we just go out there and try and do as many laps as you can being an M-class driver because it's a sunny day and you have a sports car at a beautiful circuit? So these are the things that they'll be tossing up right now. But given the speed of those front guys, you'd be bold to try and bring them in at the beginning of that pit stop window.
Don't think Yasser Shahin's going to treat this like a tourist drive here today, is he? Not in front of the home crowd. Here's a replay of Taylor, and that was a weird one. The car wanted to go left when he wanted to go right, and out into the weeds. Down to their change of direction at turns 11. Plenty of runoff here at the bend. You can see him, he started weaving the tyres to make sure. That was strange.
It had a slide and then it hooked up again. And when it did hook up, everything was facing left. Steering was left. It went left.
He'll carry a 107-second pit stop, so an extra 10 seconds added to his time when they come in. Basically, it's a 65-second mandatory pit stop for all rounds this year. And you add on the timing loop between the entry in and the exit out, and that differs at every track we go to in the Fanatec GT World Challenge.
And the reason why that number is big is because if you have two drivers, you have to do a driver change, and they don't want to put any pressure on those driver changes happening in an unsafe manner. We've got the fight on. Oh. Quinn's under attack. What a cool angle that is as they dive down at turn 6 and get the job done.
Like Rosser, that was. Impressive move. It goes past Tony Quinn. He finished second yesterday in the AM class. Across our curb cam. So edging closer towards the pit stop window opening. Less than a minute away now. Brock Feeney's set the fastest lap of the race. 1:49.1. Runs in third position. And that top three, Chad, covered by less than 1 second.
And the fight for the lead is on. And was there a little shove there as Garth tries to push Brendan all the way to the edge. Garth's got his claws out. Wanted to make sure that Brenton did not have the inside for the next corner. And he'd be vulnerable to Brock Feeney as well.
The boys turning up the heat here now, as they know the pit stop window is getting closer. Tander needs to put at least 15 seconds on the car that runs in second place.
That was super aggressive from Garth Tander. Love to see it.
It's that popular passing spot too at turn number 3, where he made contact yesterday with Dylan O'Keefe. Here it is on the replay, so it set him up. Grove was right down the middle.
They caught traffic as well, which would have had something to do with this. Just watch the way that Garth commits outside turn 2.
Just stay there.
And just watch where he positions the car at the exit here as well. Just make sure that there's just enough, 9/10 enough room for Brenton Grove to stay on the outside. Experience racing from Garth Tander. And there is Prince Jeffrey Ibrahim ready to get into that car there, the Mercedes AMG. Johor Racing. Johor is a tiny little state to the south of Malaysia, neighbouring Singapore. And he is getting ready to do what he loves doing, which is racing cars today. Arthur Abraham's in the pits. Over 30 years ago, would be, Matt, that he won the Formula 2 championship here in South Australia on the support card for Formula 1.
That's around the year David Brabham was over here running in the series. It's also been racing over in the West in a Lamborghini Huracan as well, so still enjoying his time in motorsport. If you're wondering why they're not taking tyres off, it's not mandatory to change tyres in there, so you can adjust the tyre pressures and the like. He's doing solo driver duty, so he'll just kick back and relax for the next few moments while he waits out his minimum pit stop time. The window is open and will shut with 25 minutes to go.
So there's no real strategy here if you're a solo driver at this stage, unless you were going to change tyres. Maybe you could think of a smart way to undercut someone that you're racing at that point if you're able to get onto a fresh tyre, but not a lot of, clearly, not a lot of Pirelli fresh tyres going on at the moment. So for these guys, beginning or end of the pit stop window doesn't really matter.
It's Constantinides returning to the track. It's a brand new Audi that's debuting this weekend. Now pit lane gets busy as some of our AM class drivers come in. It's Greg Taylor in the pits where we had that excursion just a few moments ago on the backside of the circuit. Behind them is Paul Stokels, number 23. So Charlie, pit lane's starting to get really busy now.
Tony Quinn, that's great. You're running in the top 10 most of the race so far.
Yeah, look, we're having trouble with the back of the car, or I'm having trouble with the back of the car today, so I'll just box on like a good Scotsman would. Thank you, I got to go.
What a man. Thanks, Tony.
That's awesome. Mid-pit stop interviews. You could only see it in the GTs.
And how polite was he?
I double dare Charlie to try and get an interview with a supercar driver mid-pit stop today.
That's it today, it's on. You have 3 seconds to answer this question.
That was awesome. Anyway, got to go now. Tony Quinn offering up a chat mid-pit stop.
It would have been cooler if the door was shut and he just pulled the window up at the same time while she's trying to ask the question.
Do you remember we had the GT racing at the Adelaide 500 a few years ago and drivers were taking selfies?
John O'Lester, yeah. We talked about it at Bathurst this year. They had that much time. They got the camera out and took a picture in front of that enormous crowd on the main straight. Very cool.
That was great.
So Matt Stupa's coming out of the pit lane now. The first of the KFC Audis. I called that wrong. Stoker was still out in the circuit there in the second car. That's car 24, 124 today. And still the leaders, Garth Tander, 1.3 seconds clear of Grove. They've got 2 seconds back to Feeney now, and they're 8 seconds clear of Dylan O'Keefe, who'll hand over to Tony Bates very soon.
This is awkward. This is really tight at the rejoin. And everyone trying to slot in at the end of pit lane did a really good job making sure they didn't cross that blend line, which is the white line that leads down towards turn 1.
More than half the field got a warning on Friday during practice about coming out across that solid line, which is there for a reason. Oh, it's contact.
The 2 Audis are into it. And there goes Greg Taylor.
On the way out of the pit, scattering the Magpies at the same time. That was a weird one.
Yeah, that was in between turns 3 and 4.
Because the number 3 Audi was letting this crew go by. The heat haze coming off that car, and we're looking for a temperature of 21. That sun has already got some bite out there, which will give us a lot more UV on the racetrack today. Here it is on the replay. So coming out of turn number 3, bit of overlap here.
Yeah, hard to say exactly the cause. Maybe Greg was unaware that the driver was in his right-hand side blind spot. If you've ever sat in a race car with a harness device and a helmet and just appreciated the lack of visibility, I just don't think Greg knew he was there at that point. You get a really good appreciation for how little you can see and how big the blind spots are in these cars. And it's all right if you're Craig Lowndes or Jamie Whincup, a guy with multiple race starts to your career and wins. But remember that is not their day job for these guys. They have a life outside of racing. And so for many of them, that can be just an issue of visibility.
Schumacher team waiting to bring in their man, Brad Schumacher. Didn't have the greatest of runs yesterday. In fact, they had a really tough Bathurst outing too, where they had a tyre explosion during qualifying on the Friday, which gave him 2 wild spins down the straight.
That was huge.
The team are based in Bathurst, literally over the back of the main straight. They went back there, worked on the car overnight. A couple of campers actually come over and complained about the noise because they were trying to fire this car up in the middle of the night to make sure it was all good to go for the next day.
It's on Bathurst.
Yeah, what's that all about?
Tim Slade's name on the car, but Tim is not driving that car this weekend. It is just solo job for Brad. No relation.
So a 97-second pit stop for him. So just a bit of a pit stop time as here comes Tander around. He'll go one more time. With about 3 minutes roughly.
Yeah, he's got a couple laps tops. Now remember, you do not want to go over that pit stop window closing. And that's going to close in about 2.5 minutes. So hard to say that they'd get around twice, almost have to pit this lap. You're taking a fairly large risk trying to get that 1 extra lap out. Gap at 1.2 seconds. Now what'll happen is Garth will pit, hand that car over to Yasser Shahin. They've got a longer pit stop time than Brenton and Steve Grove, so Steve Grove will be out with a nearly 12-13 second advantage, and Yasser will have to try and reel him in the second half of this race.
If you're wondering about the pit stop window, when it closes, as long as your car is inside the line at pit entry, even with a second to go, much like when you start a flying lap at the end of a qualifying session, that still counts. It doesn't matter if you're in there after that time, as long as you pass that line inside the window of 10 minutes. The 2 drivers yesterday didn't do that, and they missed out by a matter of seconds. The penalties are rather big. Ben Portis now in the lane, 6th place outright at the moment in the IMAC Lamborghini. Andrew McPherson will jump into that car. Montana just can't stretch this lead out back to Grove.
So what's the pit stop difference? 15 seconds, did you say?
Between these first two? So 15 seconds between the 4 and the 777.
Okay, so we're looking at roughly, what, a 13-second gap at the end of the pit stop in the advantage of Stephen Grove. And if you were to have a guess, you'd say there'd be roughly 12 to 13 laps. The difference between Yasser Shahin and Stephen Grove in qualifying, 1.2 seconds.
There you go.
12 to 13 seconds, 12 to 13 laps, and a 1 second difference as the pit stops happen now. So this is set up quite perfectly for Stephen Grove to get a 12-second advantage, and then the guy who's a second lap quicker try and reel him in.
And you know what? If they didn't come in this lap, they were going to miss the window by 3 seconds, looking on the lap times there. So they're all in now. Our top 6 on the course. 888 Johor Motor Racing getting set to get Brock Feeney out the car. Then Prince Jeffrey Ibrahim will jump in once again. Been super impressed with his driving this year in the Fanatec GT World Challenge, and now takes on another course. His Australian conquest of 2021. Car goes up on the jacks. 2 crew guys only. Are they going for tyres? No, one thing, they're checking that right rear after yesterday.
Little seat insert as well. Ready to go. You can take your time with these driver changes. It's nowhere near as frantic as you'd see in supercars at the 1000k Classic. Got to remember to put that back in. So, Feeney out. Prince Jeffrey in. He's the son of the Sultan of Johor, loves his motorsport. His grandfather used to race Mercedes back in the day, over 50 years ago, so for him it was a natural choice to choose the Benz. Does a bit of polo as well. So just loves being outdoors and competing, very competitive young guy. And this is going to be a painful wait as he watches the Grove Porsche cruise by.
There's nothing you can do about this right now. Good crew of guys in a 888 as well. Andrew Simpson's heading up the team along with Martin Short, that we've seen him racing for many years. So he comes out in front of the 777 Audi.
So Grove, Stephen that is, Prince Jeffrey, Yasser Shahin. That's the top 3. And Tony Bates, who's made up a ton of time in the pit stops. That's your top 4. 25 minutes to sort it out. And that lead for Grove over Ibrahim is nowhere near as big as we're expecting it to be. It's only 8 seconds. And this is going to be close. Crunch.
And there's contact.
Wow.
2 return serve from the Bostic Audi just behind.
Their teammates at NPC.
They won't go down well. We'll wait for a call from race control on what goes on there. Carl Reindler handing those duties. I won't bother him right now. He's probably a little bit busy next door.
I don't fancy giving the track owner a penalty at his own track in race.
I think that was tried once, then retracted.
He was never invited back.
Nope. So Shahin goes to work, and 12 seconds to Stephen Grove, who leads the race now with everybody completed their pit stops. So without these safety cars, hopefully, it'll be a clean run to the end. Here's our race leader on the way up to turn 14. This brand new Porsche they debuted at the Phillip Island round this year.
I don't understand how they're so close. They were right next to each other at the pit stops, and his pit stop was 15 seconds shorter. So how they've come out 8 seconds behind them, where did they magically find those 7 seconds? I don't know.
Mystery to us, unless there was an off on the outlap.
No, it was at the pit exit. That was 8 seconds. So unless someone stopped longer, unless the Grove Porsche stopped longer or the Shahin Audi stopped shorter, or our numbers are wrong.
You wouldn't have thought it would take that long to do a driver change. I know there's only one assistant out there, but...
Let's have a look at the field. Oh, the fight behind the leaders is on. Here comes second and third. There goes Ibrahim and Shahin. Charlie, what's the latest?
Garth Tander had a near perfect race start, you would say. That was flawless in my eyes.
I wouldn't go that far, Charlie, but got a good start. It was important to try and get the Mercedes, but obviously Brenton in the Porsche got a good start as well next to me, so we both jumped the row, and then he was on the right line. So, and then,
oh yeah, I did just remember that start. Not so flawless. Brenton actually smoked you there, didn't he?
He beat me, so it wasn't perfect. And our car was a lot faster, but it just couldn't get close enough with the aero with these cars. It's a bit like F1. You can't get right up behind them because it's just too much dirty air. You lose too much performance. And then lap traffic, I managed to use some lap traffic to get by and try to put in as many quick laps as we could to open the gap because we have a longer pit stop with the way the penalties, pit stop times work. So then, yeah, there was a little bit of excitement. I didn't see it. I just caught a replay. I was taking my helmet off and I just saw there was a bit of shenanigans.
The words they're using is unsafe release, a little bit of banter there between the teammates. So do you think there's going to be a penalty?
Oh, I don't know. I hope not, but I'd say it's up to the officials upstairs.
I'll let you go. Cross your fingers. Enjoy.
Thanks.
Great stint once again from Garth Tander. And now Yasser Shaheen has some work to do in third position. The gap now sits at 10 seconds.
So the numbers aren't that far off, actually, now that we've had a chance to crunch some numbers. It's going to be close.
Oh, that's the iMac Lamborghini. Losing 2 positions for the price of 1 down there in the final set of turns, the final sector, if you like. It's Tony Quinn.
So lap times, this time by. The leader goes 1:51.9. And it's about an 8-second wait until Ibrahim 1:52.9 for Jeffrey Ibrahim and a 1:50.1 for Shaheen. So Shaheen is closing on Ibrahim and he needs to get around the Mercedes and then try and launch down towards the Porsche. He's losing a little bit of time here behind the Aston Martin of Tony Quinn, but it's still a sizable gap. 9 seconds, 20 minutes.
So it puts Quinn a lap down now in 12th position and second in the AM class at the moment because the iMac Lamborghini leads those honours. 9 seconds the gap between Grove and Shaheen. Tony Bates is out in the Bostik Audi. They're 19 seconds away. They took on an extra 10 seconds in their pit stop.
So here's the fight for second in the background. So this is going to be quite tight here. He needs to make sure that this is Yasser Shaheen, gets around Jeffrey Ibrahim as quick as possible. And I think in the background we'll see that he's done it. Here we go. So the 777's through. No, it was showing on timing that it was, and then it swapped back over again. So this is quite a good battle. 888 versus 777.
I think he was doing his own control, alt-delete the timing bit.
It bounced around on the timing screen for a second. They've dropped Tony Bates pretty quickly as well, so the speed is up at the front of this pack. Shaheen desperately needs to get around this AMG. Here he goes. Oh, that's tight. Was there contact? Ibrahim runs wide, and the spot is done, or is it? He sticks to the outside. That's brave. It's dirty off the racing line. You can see dirt and grass flying everywhere.
How narrow is that line as well? Like, he was only half a car length off the race line. It's enough. And Ibrahim wants to go with him. There's another lap car just ahead here. I think that's Arthur Abrahams. It is. In the Cannon Foods entry. So he'll play a part of this.
Cool fight. Great battle. I think Yasser's just got it done now. He's going to use a bit of slipstream off the back of the fellow Audi ahead. And launch to the inside down at turn 1 to pass the lapper of Abrahams. Now we can focus on trying to catch the race leader. This is tight as well. Ibrahim trying to sneak on through. So 10.7 seconds. 19 minutes. That's the equation. Last time by slower than the leader, but that was because of the battle. So this will be the moment where we get a good read as Brock Feeney has a drink.
So this will tell us more on the replay. So we saw from behind. Hard to tell if there was contact. If it was minor.
I actually think they were trying to give each other as much racing room as possible.
There it is, about half a car width off the racing line. It is so dusty out there today. So here's the original shot we saw. I don't think there was.
And pit lane penalty for car 24, which was the car that was in the fast lane when the 777 got released. So that's an unusual call. They've given it to Tony Bates. So good news for Yasser Shaheen and Garth Tander. They're free to fight on here.
So that's come from race control.
Typically it's the car in the fast lane that has right of way in that scenario. But on this occasion it's gone the other way. So here it is again. So the 24, the car in the fast lane, has been penalised for that. Or that.
Was it for the second? I think it's for the second contact. Avoidable contact, that would be.
Here it is again.
Right in front of the KFC team. And I think that was 15-all in the battle of the pit stop exits down there.
I'd love to get to the bottom of that with Charlie in the pits as well to find out how they feel about that call. I suppose if you're Melbourne Performance Centre with 2 cars, you'd be happy it was that one that's getting the penalty, because it leaves Yasser Shahin out there to fight for victory. He's just gone 7/10 quicker than the leader, despite the fact that he's got some traffic. The gap is 9.8 seconds.
It's going to drop Bates now down in between Higgin and Schumacher. Sorry, Schumacher and Nick Kelly. But you had the time on there, 32 seconds to do his pit lane penalty.
Oh, he's losing a bit of time here behind the Aston Martin. That'll cost him. He's got it sorted, and we'll move to the inside down at turn 6. Taylor following through, not for position behind him, but for position against Quinn as well. So good little fights going on. Charlie, it's all happening out there at the moment.
Yeah, what great battles we're watching. Brock Feeney, can't take your eyes off it. That was a great stint, sitting in 3rd most of the time.
Yeah, it wasn't too bad. Got jumped on the start by Garth and Grovey. Just sort of had to sit in behind them there, tried to make a couple of moves, but as soon as I get right onto the back of him, I get a little bit of push, so I run a bit wide. But yeah, it was good. Iman's in the car now, so him and Yasser are having a little bit of a battle, but now it's just trying to fight through the lappers, so we'll see how we end up.
Sounds great. All the best with this and for Super 2 as well. Moving forward, Chad, I'm going to head straight down to Audi and find out the emotions running there after that penalty.
Very brave, Charlie.
Absolutely. It was a strange one. That it was the car in the fast lane that copped the penalty for what happened down there.
What a rise to fame, though, for Brock Feeney it's been the last couple of seasons.
It's been great.
Found a great home there at 888 Race Engineering. He spent a lot of time with Paul Morris and the team in the Norwell Motorplex as well. Won the Super 3 Championship 2 years back as well.
Yeah. Karting, Toyota 86, Super 3, Super 2. He's had a start at the Bathurst 1000. Playing with some GT cars here as well. Driven the Mark cars in the 12-hour, so squeezed a lot into a very short time frame. And all that work that he's doing at Norwell only helping. So that gap ballooned back to 10 seconds because Yasser Shahin lost so much time in the first sector fighting with Tony Quinn.
And that's going to keep happening.
Yeah.
For the balance of this race as well. Everyone up to 11th position has gone a lap down. But for now, Grove has a bit of clear air ahead of him.
If Yasser Shahin can just get 3 or 4 laps of clean air, that's all he needs right now to try and bring that gap back down. 1 second quicker to the first sector alone, Yasser Shahin on this lap. The gap goes from 10 seconds back to 9. So he's flying out there at the moment. Stephen Grove has a fairly sizable lead, and just like they were in the supercar team yesterday at Kelly Grove Racing, trying to manage that gap, which is sitting at about the same distance that Andre Heimgartner had yesterday, about 9 seconds. This is going to be a really quick lap from Yasser Shahin this time by. Again, a second quicker to the second sector now, so he's 2 seconds up on this lap. Yasser Shahin is lighting up the timing screen. The gap down to 7.8 seconds. That's a big gap, 7.8 seconds, but the way he's going, he'll be there in a few laps' time. Meanwhile, Audi on Audi at turn 1. Nicely done.
That was putting a lap on the car down there as well, so just waiting for it to sort itself out on where everybody is right now. We know the pro cars are 1st, 2nd, 3rd and 4th outright in this race as Brad Schumacher works his way around the circuit. He's up in 6th position and off the track now is number 17, Audi of Mark Rosser, who's going to spin again there as he rejoins right in front of the IMAC Lamborghini of Andrew McPherson that's leading the AM class at the moment. But running 10th outright. Nice one of those lazy spins down at turn 3 for the 17 of Rosser. Funny enough, would have stayed. In fact, he does. He lost his time there, but no position as he rejoined right in front of McPherson. So he lost about 6 seconds anyway that he had back to the 11th place car. So we head towards the final 10 minutes of this race. Shahin, the gap is 6 seconds now between Grove and Yasser. Here he is coming around towards turn 11 and 12. And again, 4/10 quicker on this lap alone. He's just eating his way through the margin that Grove has left Ibrahim behind now, some 8 seconds.
Traffic pending, he's going to catch him. And as we speak, Grove's back in traffic right now, a few corners away. So there's 2 lap cars in this last sector. Here they are. Stephen Grove trying to wheel his way through, and that gap is drastically shorter than what it was a lap ago. Now 4 seconds.
So post-race investigation coming up on our screens now. For what we did see, so that first penalty come up for a minimum pit stop infringement. So where they didn't complete enough time, but now there's another post-race investigation for the contact.
Yes.
Clearing that one up.
Just to confuse matters, they haven't gone 777, they've gone 77,7. And there is a 7 and a 77 and a 777 out there.
Yeah, Tony Quinn won't like this.
Just in case you were completely confused. Charlie, what is going on down there?
Yeah, like I think we just learnt that. Dylan just heard that as well for the first time. So unsafe release, penalty, that's what you've been told they've been given so far. It was a drive-through.
Yeah, drive-through for us because we have a set pit lane time and we left the box a little bit early. So we wanted Tony to slow up in the pit lane, but obviously we had contact with Yasser and then, yeah, we ended up getting a penalty and they might as well. So who knows?
It's very calm down here. Like Dylan's like, we only lost a couple of positions, but not in class. So I'm surprised. No one's showing much emotions down here.
Dylan's a pretty cool character. Thanks. We're finding out right now. I think it's too much faith.
The guy with most emotion is in the car at the moment.
Yes.
Tony Bates.
True. So
now, but this could have
more sense, please. Now,
but this could have really big ramifications post-race if they do apply a penalty to car 777
or 77 or 7
or 77 and 7. Usually 7's a lucky number, but not today.
Yes.
This could have a big impact on the result of the race.
Maybe Tony Quinn's being investigated for giving interviews mid-pit stop. There it is. Watch this. The Grove Porsche. Just watch the front splitter here. Does it touch the ground? Hovering. That's a lesson in ride height, isn't it? Got that absolutely perfect. Airflow going underneath the car is key. The way it works with the front splitter, the floor, and that rear diffuser which sits under the rear bumper bar. That's how it sucks the car down onto the ground through high-speed corners.
How cool does that Porsche look as well?
Here we go.
Great shot, but some news coming through too from race control. Post-race investigation for potential unsafe release for car 777.
There we go. So we've put the comma in the right spot.
But this is another one to go on top of this. So it's 2 investigations coming now.
Yeah. The good news is it's post-race. So let's just focus in the next 9.5 minutes on a cool motor race that's about to transpire between these two. They're about to have at it. Stephen Grove in the Porsche, Yasser Shahin in the Audi. 2 German-built cars here in Australia. Not too far from part of the world with a lot of German heritage in South Australia. Fast part of the circuit. Turn 8, 9, 10. And then a left-hander at 11. Get the car stopped for turn 12. Top of the circuit. 2nd gear, 3rd gear now. Grab 4th. Dive up towards turn 13. It sits almost like the chase at Bathurst, but in the exact opposite direction.
Yeah.
Right-hander instead of a left. Look at the rear of the Audi. The Pirelli's complaining as he got the throttle on early. Big slide from the back of the bend Audi. He's quicker than him, and he's got time up his sleeve. Can Stephen Grove defend for 8 minutes, or does he just let Yasser Shahin take this one?
And not just that, he needs to get past. You want to try and put a margin on this, because if there's a penalty applied, 5 seconds or 10 seconds could be added to it.
That's a very good point.
Could make or break the race. And he's got to think about to a position change, because they're 13 seconds ahead of the 888 Mercedes right now, with just over 8 minutes remaining. Stephen Grove continues to lead. Shahin tucked right behind the Grove Porsche.
Here it comes, Matt. Turn 1, dive on the inside. It's dirty down here. There's marbles, and he struggles to get the car stopped. It's squirming. But the commitment was there, and the ABS does its job. And the Audi moves through. Change for the lead. 52 minutes into the motor race.
Let's see what he can produce in the final 7.5 minutes. 1:49.0 is the quickest lap of the race. That was set back on lap 14 for the 777, as now he takes the lead. Ibrahim is out to nearly 14 seconds from this group of cars. Brad Schumacher leading his class today. Ran in 4th position outright in the trophy class. He just got that car pulled up to the marbles from the tyres that are off the racing line. It's going to become a classic shot over the years to come, isn't it, down there at turn number 1.
Nice commitment and got the job done. Textbook pass. So what gap can he get to? The gap is already 1.5 seconds. I think he's about 2 seconds a lap quicker from what we've seen so far in this race, pace-wise. But he's only got really 3 to 4 laps left in the motor race. He might get that gap to 10. He's lucky.
Meantime, here's Jeffrey Ibrahim between turn 13 and 14. While the leaders are just coming through turn 17 on the track. We'll check in with Nick Kelly in the 99 Industry Mercedes. Running down in 7th position with Matt Stupas just behind in the KFC Audi car 23. These guys battling 8th and 9th and in the trophy class right now.
Tough weekend for the Audis across the board. And there'll be a sense of irony that the pit lane contact wouldn't have happened had they not dropped the car 24 early.
That's true.
That's what led to the contact in pit lane. So the 24 got a penalty for being dropped too early before its pit stop time, and then its teammate got penalised for hitting it on the way out. It's not been a good weekend for Melbourne Performance Centre. They've made some key decisions that have gone the opposite direction this weekend. Typically so on the money.
Yesterday was Triple Eight having the tough day out of the race. They're looking good at the moment in 3rd position. We watch Kelly and Stupas just behind here. You've got Taylor and Bailey wrapping up the top 10. A whole gaggle of trophy cars inside the top 10. Brad Schumacher leading that class right now. 4th position outright in his Kelso Electrical entry. And just over 5 minutes remaining in race 2 of the 3rd round of this year's Fanatec GT World Challenge Australia at the Ben Motorsport Park here in South Australia.
Chance to look through the different classes that we have in this field as well. There's the championship for the latest, greatest GT3 model cars. That's split into 2, being Pro and Pro-Am. And then on top of that, we've got trophy for the older model cars, one of which won outright yesterday, which is very impressive.
They're still fast after all these years. New Audis have debuted as well this year. And just the 2 DNFs in this race so far. Mark Rosser, who came into the pits about 5 minutes ago, is still there, and we lost yesterday's race winner, Brett Hobson. We believe a gearbox issue, a gear selector issue with the 96 Nissan. After being so dominant yesterday, they went out a long time ago, in fact 42 minutes ago.
This is for position. Tony Quinn after Abrahams. And Maridi behind them as well. Part of this fight. Abrahams has a pretty good run onto the front straight, but if there's one thing these Aston Martins can do, it's go straight quickly.
Just a few years experience between these two as well.
Yep. So even though it was the lead car, the Aston Martin quicker that time in a straight line. And Abrahams able to put the pressure on under brakes at turns 1, 2 and 3.
Gap is 6 seconds at the front now for Yasser Shahin, so he's well and truly left Stephen Grove in his wake. Allowing for Abrahams is lining up Tony Quinn from Moon. Here, nice down the inside from a long way back and gets it done.
You have to rename that corner the Send It hairpin. I think at the bend, that was cool. There's been some big sends down there this week.
It's like they just get down there and just hope and pray it's going to grip up at the last second. Just fire it down the inside.
Oh, cool.
Turn, and it finally does.
You know how we often like to sell different corners to different naming rights sponsor? I think we need Australian Post.
Yes.
To buy the rights to turn 6 here at the bend. That was big. Flash of the headlights down the front straight. Has this car got a radio issue? I wonder. No one else to flash the headlights at.
A couple of lap cars ahead. He's got no need to with that 6-second margin he has right now.
Yeah. So I wonder if they were trying to get a message to him if there was a radio issue, because typically a flash in the headlights is a confirm yes if you don't have radio comms. Maybe it was that there was a lap car all the way up the road into turn 1, but...
Yeah, I tend to agree with you. It's only a couple of cars there, and they're not going to really make much of an impact on the race. Greg Taylor comes through the shot, running 9th position outright at the moment. Michael Bailey in 10th position. And here comes McPherson leading the AM class in his IMAC Lamborghini. So battles within the battle here with just over a minute and a half remaining. 7.3 seconds. Remember, it's a post-race investigation to carry out between the 777 and the 24 Audi for that contact in pit lane during this race. Vince Mariti going past Tony Quinn here.
That doesn't look good for the Aston Martin, does it? Backing out in that manner.
And second on, it's a limp mode.
Maybe 90 seconds away from a checkered flag as well. It's idling along the road.
The limiters come on. Sure. Yeah.
No, it won't be a limiter issue, but maybe limpo. If it's overheated or something similar. 1 minute to go in this race.
So we think 10 seconds will be the margin here he's trying to push it out to?
Maybe. I think he'll get there. The way he's going, he's driving beautifully. Yasser Shahin, he'll be enjoying this too.
Another lap in, 1:51.0 on the previous lap. We'll wait for Stephen Grove to cross the line. He was 8 seconds behind on that lap. 1:52.8. So he's put the gap out to 8.2 seconds. Oh, he just got the Audi pulled up into turn number 1, did Shahin.
Yeah, there's a reason why he's pushing so hard. And you guessed it earlier, Matt. The impending investigation at the end of this race for that unsafe release could lead to a penalty. They don't know what that penalty could be, so it's just best to build as much of a gap as humanly possible in the dying stages of this race.
Different view of turn number 6. On the second biggest configuration of the Ben Motorsport Park out in the distance, as Michael Formosa pointed out earlier today, is the GT spec circuit, 7.7 kilometres around.
The Joker lap.
The ultimate Joker lap. Yeah. 2 Ks added to his lap.
That was strange. So Charlie's done the legwork down in the pits. Thank you, Charlie. No radio issue for car 777. 7, on the other hand, has more than radio issues. The Aston Martin, sadly, not going to finish this motor race. And in terms of the championship, that could be quite telling. And we're hearing out of gas.
Oh, wow.
At the OTR Super Sprint, of all places.
So that is going to lobby for another service station on the outside of the track down there. Meantime, the gap has gone out to just over 10 seconds. And on course for their 5th victory of the season in the Fanatec GT World Challenge Australia here at the Ben Motorsport Park. It's been a class act in season 2021. It's another victory to Yasser Shahin and Garth Tander at the Ben Motorsport Park here today. A dominating victory, but with a post-race investigation still to happen. The Grove boys come across for 2nd place here, 10.5 seconds down the road. Jeffrey Ibrahim and Brock Feeney will finish in 3rd position in race number 2 today.
Great drive, Yasser Shahin, in that back half of that race to extend that gap the way he did. So that was a 12-second deficit, maybe at the exit of the pits. He turned that into a 10-second advantage. He found 22 seconds in the back half of that race. That's a drive. On Stephen Grove, checkers waving at the end of this one. It's Yasser Shahin and Garth Tander. Stephen Grove and his son Brenton home for 2nd. Good comeback from yesterday. Jeffrey Ibrahim sharing with Brock Feeney 3rd today. Brad Schumacher wins his class and finishes 4th on the road. Tony Bates sharing with Dylan O'Keefe. They had that drive through, dropped them back to 5th. And all the way down the order, there were some pretty cool battles amongst the Audis. A big brigade of Audis inside the top 10. Over the page, Andrew McPherson finishing just outside the top 10 in the end. For Abraham's up a few spots from yesterday into 12. And Brett Hobson, sadly, some gear selection issues for that car, unable to bring it home.
We'll take a look at the highlights. Race number 2. They spread out 4 wide at the start of the Fanatec GT World Challenge. here today at the Bend Motorsport Park. What a great shot into turn number 1 as the cars worked their way through the first set of turns. It was the Grove car that led us to the initial stages. And then Garth Tander had decided it was time to go, parking the Bend Motorsport Park Audi at the inside here at turn number 3 to take the lead. These guys waited right till the very last moment to pit. Brenton Grove tried to fire back. That was the shot from the inside of turn number 3. Can't really take on Garth Tander in these situations as Roland Dane and Jeffrey Ibrahim looked on. This was an awkward one between Taylor and Rosser coming back out of the pits. A bit of overlap there between the old and the new Audi on the way down towards turn number 5. Taylor finishing in 9th position. Then the pit stops happen. Brenton out, Stephen in to the number 4 Porsche. This was the controversial moment of the race.
So the 24 didn't stay in its pit bay long enough, got a penalty for that. And then its teammate drove into it on the way out, and that's getting investigated for a penalty as well. A really unusual one between the Audi teammates in pit lane. Fight was on for second. Decisive move, Yasser Shahin to the inside of Prince Jeffrey Ibrahim. And that freed up the battle for the lead. Had to reel him in first. It's about a 10-second advantage to the way of the Grove Porsche. He found that 10 seconds on the track, got the lead change done at turn 1, and then drove away from him. Built up a 10-second lead, not knowing if there was going to be a penalty for what happened in pit lane. And further back, there was all kinds of battles going on. This was a great one after Abraham's licking the stamp at turn 6. And Aston Martin did make a home run out of fuel, actually. And meanwhile, it was the Bend Audi getting another win for season 2021.
Victory number 5 going to the Bend Motorsport Park team at their home track. Tough one here for the local Legends team. Tony Gwynn, we believe, running out of fuel on the final lap and dropping down into 16th position. And another one not making it to the finish line, one of the KFC Audis. And that is the Stokell-Higgins car not making it through. You know, we love our annual trip to South Australia, and there's so much to see and do here. Garth Tander has been out and about to see what the state has to offer.
South Australia has a rich history in motoring, from the Holden plant that opened in the 60s to the very racetrack we're competing on at the Bend this weekend, which was formerly the Mitsubishi Test Track.
So on the way to the circuit today, we thought we'd stop off and check some of the old and some of the new. And the first stop, the new, and a key manufacturing partner for supercars.
Supershock was founded in 2005 by myself off the back of a passion for motion and mobility systems, which obviously included suspension. Supercars has been a very big part of Supershock's story. We're very proud to be associated with supercars, and I remember in our very first time with supercars where we developed the supercars damper back in 2012 and made its debut in competition in 2013. It was a very proud moment, and that has grown, and supercars can take credit for some of Supershock's success, and it shows that what an Australian company can achieve on a global scale.
A few more k's up the road, through Holden Hill ironically, is the beautiful town of Birdwood, tucked amongst the Adelaide Hills. That's where you can find the National Motor Museum.
The National Motor Museum's been here since 1965, when it started by some founders, some motorcycle enthusiasts in the town of Birdwood. It's soon become a motor museum, focused museum in the mid-70s, and the South Australian government rescued it from going under, and it's been the National Motor Museum since. We love it here in the Adelaide Hills. It's a tourism destination. We have over 350 vehicles on display, but we're a museum, so there's a lot more behind the scenes that we do, a lot of research. We have an extensive library, and we love the 67,000 visitors who come and visit us on an annual basis.
And if you like football, meat pies, kangaroos, and something else, you'll love this display.
We love football, meat pies, kangaroos, and Holden cars. Football, meat pies, kangaroos, and Holden cars.
We were lucky enough to be chosen as the custodians of the Holden Heritage Collection, and we think it's the A-list of the collection. There's 18 vehicles here. There's a series of vehicles that are the milestone vehicles, like the millionth vehicle and the very last vehicle. But what's of interest to most of our visitors is the concept vehicle.
And one of those cars was this, the 1969 Hurricane, a car so advanced for its time, it even had Australia's first reversing camera.
The Holden Hurricane was a very significant car when it was released back in 1969, and not just for Holden, but for the whole automotive industry in this country. If you ever wondered about the reason why we do concept cars like this, Well, this one describes it perfectly. It shows amazing foresight into future automotive technologies. Things like the climate control, navigation system, inertia wheel seat belts. These things that we take for granted today, well, they're the product of creative thinking many years ago.
Imagine rocking up to the shops in this, the 2005 Holden Effigy, a modern take on the iconic FJ Holden. Not only does it look good, it sounds good too.